confident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
Good day, beloved. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Rock Newman Show 2.0 today. If you see me struggling to try to contain this smile that I have, it's because my whole being is smiling. And I'm smiling because of the guests we have for you today. It is a gentleman who is very straightforward, doesn't like a lot of frills, doesn't at all ask for or expect anything laudatory. I've just got to say that I have the absolute utmost respect for him. I admire him. I so appreciate the love and love the work that he has done. Without any further ado, the guest today is none other than Mr. Neely Fuller. Mr. Fuller, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, sir.
So I'm going to jump right in just with both feet here and read a comment of yours that states, if you do not understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Please elaborate. The floor is yours.
Well, some years ago, I kept trying to figure out, like most people do, particularly young people at different ages, sometimes once or twice, sometimes all the time. The world is presented to you, and you're in it, so you just try to figure out what is going on and why are people doing this and going here and going there, and it's sort of like a big puzzle, and I think everybody goes through that stage, coming to the world, and you're confronted with it. And over a period of years, up till roughly about the age 26, I came to the conclusion that this thing called interaction between people was weighted down with something called racism. And to put it all in one box, I say, now, what is this that seems to affect everything? Now, I could see a lot of things that didn't seem to be connected about things in general, but everything seems to be connected with something racial, and this was in the 1950s. And I said, my goodness, because, well, I was aware of it before then, but I didn't put it all together like putting together pieces of a puzzle. And so I came up with, just by examining everything that people are involved in, and I called that, start segmenting it into 9 areas of activity. I said, now, so I started writing notes to myself, basically. And this was about 1956 when I really got serious about it, because I was always stumbling and fumbling and always butterfingers about everything. I could never put things together. So I say, okay, there seems to be 9 areas of activity that will apply to everybody in the universe. You know, something called in school or anywhere else you are, dealing with finances and whatnot, and time and energy, which is what I kind of settled on. I said, okay, 9 areas of activity. Let's see, in alphabetical order, it'll be economics. Started with that one. Then education. People get it. That's the process of learning. Economics is how time and energy is used. Now, this didn't all evolve at once. It just came to me in bits, including the definitions, what I call compensatory definitions, making up for definitions that I thought didn't work very well. So I said economics is not just about money. It's about how you use time and energy. And then I went to the next one in alphabetical order, education. That is learning. Learning what? Learning everything about everything, because that's what education is. And then I added a little footnote to that saying, no one is educated because no one that I'd ever met, including meeting myself, knew everything that they should know. I say, so is there such a thing as a real educated person? And when you ask questions, the answers seem to be coming if you keep asking the questions, persistent about it. So I said, no one is really educated. They say that's an educated person. No, it isn't. Because that person, unless they know everything that they ought to know all the time, they know it, you're not educated. That's a process. So even back then, even though I didn't have words for it, I cliched that later on. I started adopting the phrase, I'm still learning. I made that one up. And that's a part of education. You have to learn. And that's what education is. You're constantly learning. And you never stop learning. Even when you are dying, unless you remember that you died before, you're learning about your death. You might see other people die, but you want to learn about your death when you're dying. So I'm not dead yet, so I still don't know about my death until I'm actually dying. Okay, then entertainment, that's the third area. Labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And then I turned around and answered to the question that you asked and looked at that phrase that I made up. If you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. And then I said, now that means I got work to do, because I got to know what white people who seem to be running everything that has to do with me and everybody that looks like me. I said, I got to know what they do and how they do it in all of these areas of activity. Otherwise, I'm nowhere close to solving problems, my problems. Because when I started out really trying to wrestle with this race thing, I was just trying to solve my problems. I wasn't trying to solve anybody else's.
Mr.
I was
Fuller,
very personal about it.
Mr. Fuller, if I can stop you there just for a moment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, at any time.
Only to let my audience know that you're listening to the voice of Neely Fuller, one of the most highly informed individuals on this planet when it comes to this matter of race and white supremacy. For the very longest time, we have desired to bring him to you, and we were finally able to connect and to have a time that worked for both of us. So you're listening to the incredible wisdom of Neely Fuller. Mr. Fuller, please continue.
Yes, and so I think the last one was war.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the 9 areas of activity. And then I started looking, going back to number 1, economics. How should I use my time and energy? Because at that time, I was just running all over this place, that place, doing this, doing that, watching to see what other people do, and then joining in and saying, me too. And fortunately, a lot of things I put on brakes about because I was headed for disaster on several occasions, watching what other people do and then saying, me too. I'll join this and join that because I didn't know. I couldn't. My reasoning power was just about zero because I was confused about everything. I was always the last one. I mean, to catch on to what's going on, what was really happening and why. And so when I really started paying attention, I said, I got to slow down and pay attention to every detail of everything because otherwise I can see the dangers ahead if I keep doing everything like I'm doing, just rushing in and asking questions later. And then that's when I discovered that everything is a matter of questions and answers and coming up with the correct answers to every question, every time, without fail. Because if you didn't come up with the correct answer to just one question out of 1 million, that might be the thing that will cause you disaster. It's always got to be the correct question. Otherwise, it's not the correct answer. Otherwise, it's not an answer to that particular question. And I said, these sound like Fuller talking to myself, the laws of the universe. And that's what I've been ignoring. I said, people don't really make laws. They discover laws that are already there. And if those laws are correct or incorrect, they're going to either be one or the other. That's the only thing to sort out. How to use that law of the universe. And so these things came to me gradually. And then I said, finally, in answer to the initial question, I came up with that thing about if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. And that's in all areas of activity. So I said, now you can't solve any other problem on the planet, and I'm saying that now to the entire world, until you solve the race problem. Because I was running, particularly back in the 1950s when I started getting into it earnestly, I was trying to run this place and that place, trying to go different places, thinking I could escape the race problem. And then I had to realize, Fuller, there's no escape. You have to dissolve the race problem. You, yourself, Fuller, no one has set up any paradise for you to come and sit down in, and you have eluded the race problem. And when I came to that realization, I was actually hurt because that's exactly what I was doing. And I said, well, what's the best way to go about doing it? And that's how I got started. Written in earnest back in the 1950s.
You know, if
that statement.
If I could have another moment here to further share with our audience something that you said, and I've attempted to pull some morsels out here, but it basically says that what it means, that first piece that I read, if you don't understand racism, everything else that you think that you understand will confuse you. And what that means is the people who are just getting up and trying to go to work or trying to look for a job or trying to do whatever it is they're trying to do, if they're classified as non-white, the first order of business is they're going up against the system of white supremacy. And Mr. Fuller, a few months back, I visited Durham, North Carolina. I have a friend down there who is a senior executive at a thriving company, and I called him on a Sunday evening, and we chit-chatted, and I said, "What you do? What's up, man? What you about to do?" And this brother, in the upper echelons of that company, he's highly respected himself. He said to me, "I'm trying to get my head right, Rock, to go out here and deal with those white folks tomorrow morning." And I thought, that is not anything that you would ever hear a white person say, but it is so understood. We non-whites simply understand that kind of thought, and ultimately the stress that comes with, I got to get up and go here and deal with these white folks tomorrow morning. And I'm just curious of your response to that, what you think about that.
That's what you get up for. That's the whole reason. I always say that's black people's assignment. We're born into this world, just like I started this conversation with. We find ourselves here. We didn't plan on getting here. I mean, how are you going to make a plan and you're not even here? You're not even born yet. So you're born in this world, and you look at it and say, what's going on? And what's going on this planet called Earth is people are going here and going there and whatnot, but what are they reacting to? Or what kind of action are they taking? And who is orchestrating most of what people do? And it's unfortunately being run, the entire planet, by people who shouldn't be running the entire planet. And these people, unfortunately, are what you call loosely or in a serious way racists. And who are the racists? They are white people who practice something called white supremacy. That's an invention. And it turned out to be the most powerful form of government of people so far, according to the evidence, in recorded history. No other form of government exists on this planet that is more powerful, nor no form of religion is more powerful than the political system and the religious system called the system of white supremacy. Now, that is either true or false. Now, many people have, upbraided me or chastised me or whatever you want to say to me, and many people have said, I don't want to hear no more, Fuller. I don't want to talk to you no more about that.
Yeah.
Because I don't agree with it. There's no such thing as white supremacy. Ain't nobody supreme over me except God, And but I said, well, I stick by my statement, because the white supremacists themselves say, oh, if you're talking about who is supreme over all of us, it is God. That's why we burn crosses, or we light crosses, and we wear the cross proudly. And we put the cross, like Adolf Hitler did, on our airplanes and whatnot, and go stomping all over the world. I mean, we believe in the cross. We believe in God and Jesus and the whole 9 yards of and Christianity. Oh, yes, we don't back off of that. But we also believe that God has ordered us as white people to dominate and mistreat all of you dark-skinned people. Sorry about that. It ain't personal. Like in the mafioso, they say, it's business. It's not personal. We are assigned to do that. That's what white supremacy means. Domination and mistreatment of people of color 24/7 in all 9 areas of activity consistently forever. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. That's our assignment by our Creator, all of us. So if you black people would just shut up and stop arguing and making fuss about what we are doing, everything will work out just fine. Now, that's what they're literally saying.
Mm-hmm. Just
all right?
Just fine for them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that they are assigned by our Creator, all of our Creator, the Creator of all of us, that the people who were fortunate enough to be born white are assigned to dominate and mistreat. That's what white supremacy means. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any reason to argue against white supremacy. If the treatment was great, hey, I'd welcome it in a minute, in less than a minute. But racism is about mistreatment. They invented the idea, apparently, to all the what appears to be the record shows of racism. Now, they didn't invent the idea of slavery, I don't think. There's no record of that. Slavery has been around since people were acting ugly before white supremacy.
You know, I wanted to get into something that relates to what you just said there. On the one hand, just recently, and with the talk of the fervor of the talk of the first former president of the United States in history being arrested, being indicted, you have him, who I think understands exactly what you're saying, and certainly if he doesn't understand what you're saying, he sure believes it, that he's been ordained, because his natural comment, his default comment, his true belief comes out when he says, "You gotta protest and take our country back." That's the former president, the 45th president. I don't even like to call his name. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to ask you about, as you so eloquently articulate what is the sense and what is the feeling, and probably more importantly, what is the actions of those that you refer to as white supremacists. So what do you say about the time and the work of the civil rights movement, if we just isolate and look at what, sort of the Martin Luther King era from the mid-50s to, the late 60s, and what many refer to as accomplishments, integration, but what some think might have been one of the worst things that happened, that took away what sense of self-reliancy that black folks had. I'd just like if you would speak to that.
Well, the white supremacists say that we're in business forever as far as racism. That's what they've been saying so far, until they say something different, like we'll want to, and what I have requested when I talk to white people, and I'm talking to white people now, right? here right this minute, because that's what my duty is. Talk to white people and black people. What are we supposed to be doing on this planet? Because I discovered something along the way of what you call learning. Learning is just questions and answers, just like on this program. Why? Because it's the most logical thing to do to solve problems. You cannot solve any problem in the universe. This is universal law, which is what I say black people need to tap into. All of the universal laws. You cannot solve any problem without questions and answers if you are a mortal creature, a creature in the form of a person on planet Earth here in the year 2023. All problems, and someone can write this down because I have it in my book throughout, either directly or indirectly, that you can get by going to producejustice.com. All problems, without exception, are solved through the process of questions and answers.
And let me give you an opportunity to give that website again, because I have no doubt whatsoever that I've got listeners out there, I've got viewers out there that really want to be able to get all the resources that you might have. So would you please repeat from where they can get it again?
2 words, plus.com. Producejustice.com. That's it. Go to that website. Producejustice.com.
Producejustice.com. I just
like you're trying to produce justice, which that's why I gave my podcast that name, that title, because that's what I'm trying to do. That's what we all should be trying to do. Replace the system of white supremacy. Replace it with what? With justice. And so, while we're on that subject, I'll just explain what justice is, because I don't like any of the definitions down through the years that I've seen in any dictionaries. For one thing, they keep saying justice has to do with fair play. Well, fair is also mixed up with the word white. And so what the white supremacists do, they associate anything that is of plus value, of constructive value, with whiteness. So they associate the word justice, even though they don't spell anything alike, with the word fair. They'll say justice is fair play. And then they'll say my fair lady. All right? White lady. All right? And white and lady kind of go together. If it's a black female, that's not necessarily a lady. That's just a thing. See, the white supremacists are very treacherous when it comes to the use of language, anybody's language, and when it comes to manufacturing words that help to support the system of white supremacy. That's what causes a whole lot of confusion. So you get the words straight first. But words are also involved in questions and answers. And I want to say this to the whole audience. And any problem that you have today, right today, I'm talking about this day, here in March of 2023, just go into the question mode. Just back off of statements and go into the question mode. Be consistent about asking questions, because all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. That's universal law. Neely Fuller doesn't have any laws. I'm just tapping into universal laws. And that's how I would like for all people of color to think in terms of, don't follow people, including Neely Fuller. He makes mistakes, lots of them. You don't want to follow anybody that makes mistakes, and everybody makes them. Follow logic, the laws of the universe. 1 and 1 is 2 for everybody. Jumping off of a cliff without a parachute or something, it's not logical. It doesn't work for everybody. That's the kind of laws I'm talking about.
Understood. Let me ask you, when you say trying to understand something. Part of what, if we hear the phrase all the time, our youth are our future. We certainly want that to be true. As we live in this city here in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., we see runaway violence, behavior that is utterly antisocial, debilitating, harmful, hurtful. What effect do you feel white supremacy has on today's youth and some of their problems?
All of it. All of the above. Anything that happens in the system of white supremacy, and this is a part of what I call the code, which is what I write about. I call it the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code. Anything that non-white people do, all this killing on the street, the killing in Baltimore, the killing in Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago for sure, or in Somalia. There's lots of killing going on there. South Sudan, I've heard about that. The white supremacists are to blame for every shot that's fired. Now, that statement is either true or false.
I was going to say,
either directly and indirectly.
Yeah.
See, that's what I mean by staying in focus. And when you make a statement, that statement better be true. That includes Neely Fuller's statements. It better be true. You don't make false statements. If you're tempted to make a false statement, just bite your tongue and hold it and do some thinking for a while and try to make whatever statement you make always be true, because without truth, everything is downhill anyway.
So what you just did in answering that question about the youth, you very succinctly said white supremacy had everything to do with it. It could, and then you say about Somalia and South Sudan. So just recently, I look and we see on the news all the time, every day, round the clock, the war that's going on where Putin invaded Ukraine. We hear about that all the time. From this government, they release. United States government, Biden administration, Congress, senators, they release billions and billions and billions of dollars in support of the Ukraine population. And at the same time, I am seeing the various clashes in Africa that we barely hear about. Just as many or more people getting killed. We barely hear about it, and we hardly give them, this government hardly gives them a damn thing. So if I can, you just connected some dots there when you said everything, it has everything to do with the youth violence, is either true or it is not. The situation in Ukraine and Somalia, the difference of what they're doing is one is white, one is non-white. So those who might argue with you, debate you, to challenge you to say that it is not true. What the hell does white supremacy have to do with a kid who decides to pick up a gun in Southeast Washington, D.C. and blow another black person's head out? From where I sit, Mr. Fuller, I can't argue at all that it is not white supremacy that has everything to do with that.
The gun itself. and the mentality that goes with it. The first question asked, that black child, and we're all really children in the system of white supremacy, if you're a person of color anywhere on this planet. So a black person picking up a gun and killing anything or anybody for any reason. For one thing, you get the mentality. Where did that come from in the system of white supremacy? It came from the white supremacists. Even our styles of killing, drive-bys and all like that. Where did that come from? Where did it come from? Video games and stuff like that. See, we have a death worship in society in the system of white supremacy. And it covers the entire planet. It's just, the only thing that changes is the style of killing. The white supremacists brag about killing. They reenact killing. They have reenactments of things called something like a civil war among themselves. And what is all this connected to? Black people. Anytime there's any shooting going on, directly and indirectly, it's connected with destroy people of color. Destroy them. Not all of them, because, see, the white supremacists run the world just like they run a duck farm or something like that. They say, we got chickens out here. Do we kill all of our chickens? Say, you're not going to be running a chicken farm if you kill all your chickens. Because you hear black people saying something about they planning genocide. No, they're not. If they wanted to kill us, we've been gone already. Like Salazzo said in the movie The Godfather, telling Tom Hagen, get in the car, Tom. If I wanted to kill you, you'd be dead already. That's the whole white supremacist mentality. Oh, yeah, I just want to talk to you. I want to help you, and I want to help the Corleones. Do what? Kill more people and get more profits. Duh. That's the whole system. It's a gangster system. When black people understand that the white supremacist system, racism itself, is a massive gangster system, and everybody is in on it, including all the black people on the planet, because we are subject to it. That's why you have to get rid of the entire system and replace it with what that one word, justice.
Justice.
So what does this word mean? Guaranteeing that no person, that's no person on the planet, is mistreated. You can't have that. You can't have justice unless you have that guarantee. That's number one. And number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help every time without fail. Illustration. If there are 10 people in a room, and this is for the remedies, because I believe in, if you got to complain about anything, find the answer to solving that particular complaint and or problem. So the answer to that is, and people can use this right now because this is part of what I call the code. A code is something, do something that works. If it's 10 people in a room, like on a job, and this is an answer to something you said earlier about a gentleman that where some place that you went who said he had to go out and confront these white people and all like that. Well, he can take with him just questions and answers in any situation he's in, because it applies to every situation. 10 people in a room as an illustration. You walk into that room. First thing you want to know, is anybody in this room being mistreated? Most likely, every hand is going to go up. Whether it's white people, non-white people, male, female, whatever. Chances are that'll be the initial response. And if there's no response to that, you ask that next question, because there's just two parts to producing justice, in my opinion. And I haven't seen this a better definition yet. The other part is guaranteeing that no person, after the first part is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. Second part is guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Starting with every situation that you come into. First question you want to know, is anybody here being mistreated? 10 people in the room. Everybody's hand goes up. Then you say, 10 people being mistreated? Then you listen to everybody's story. That's the codified procedure. All right, everybody, all 10 people line up and give me your story. Now you start with the person that's being mistreated the most. That's what, that's the procedure. We need procedures for everything, which is something black people don't have, which is what I say is the difference between what I do, like on this program, or try to do, and what I have seen everybody has been doing and all like that. And I try to find out what's missing. What's missing is we need a code, because the white supremacists need a code. They have a code that always works. That's why it's a code. A code is something that always works. So we need to come up with a code. And so to continue on now, part of the code is you go through this procedure, because a code is a procedure. And so you ask each person about the mistreatment. And then you start with the person who has been mistreated the most and solve that problem by doing what? Asking questions and getting answers. That's how you solve problems. Then you go to number 2. Is anybody here who needs help the most? And that'll probably be connected with a mistreatment of some type by omission or commission. So you just go through the same process again. That's where the guarantee comes from. See to it that everybody that gets help, starting with the person that needs help the most. Miss Agnes she needs help, but she doesn't need as much help as Miss Helen. All right? So you let Miss Helen and Miss Agnes know, well, we're gonna take care of Miss Agnes' problem today, Miss Helen, because she needs more help than you do. So you will be scheduled for tomorrow. That's what you call codifying. Just make an order out of chaos, which is what the white supremacists do with all non-white people. Produce chaos.
Let me ask you, please, right at that point there, I want to let my audience know that you are hearing the incredible wisdom and observation of Neely Fuller. I'm going to say it again, Neely Fuller. You guys have asked me for years of being on this show, when you going to have Neely Fuller? I can't tell you how happy I am to have him today. Mr. Fuller, following up on what you just said, I want to ask you one of the 9 components of areas of white supremacy that you talked about was entertainment. I would like to get your observation about the impact and how the tool of entertainment, let's just say specifically like Hollywood, movies, television, whatever. What role, how has entertainment been a useful tool for white supremacy?
Like all the other areas of activity that they have codified to support the system of white supremacy. The white supremacists do not do anything, directly or indirectly, that does not support the system of white supremacy. And in all the 9 areas of activity, they do this. And in entertainment, they do this. They look at how people all over the world entertain themselves. And then they take it and start twisting it. See, I mean, they are very systematic. They're very codified in everything that they do. They don't leave anything to chance. They study people. That's the first thing you do when you get ready to do anything. If you get ready to drive a car, you got to study that car. The white supremacists have studied non-white people and how we think and what we laugh at, what we get mad about. They know exactly how to handle us. That's why they're supreme. Anything that you study, and study all the time, they burn midnight oil while we're asleep, figuring out their next move of how they're going to handle black people for the next 500 years. That's why we're always running behind, because we say that we ran into a racial incident. We are drowning in racism. You don't run into racism. You don't have to go nowhere. Racism is completely dictating even this program. The fact that I'm on this program, the fact that I'm talking the way that I'm talking is because of what? Racism. Black people are reacting to racism in every move that we make, but we don't know it, and they know we don't know it. I mean, like the black male that you told me about, he said he's got to go down there and face those white people. He was facing white people when he was asleep. We are drowning in the system of racism. We've never known anything else outside of that. And when we start tapping into anything outside of that, that's through the mind. The mind, and what the mind does is turn us around and say, now you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Black Neely Fuller Jr., after all this time that you have wasted up till now, you are supposed to be on the job of replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. You have no other assignment. I can only come to that conclusion because everywhere I turn, I can't get away from it, which is what I started out to do. And like my host is here saying, you, sir, you're saying that I'm giving out wisdom, but I want the whole world to know I'm not giving out wisdom in my own mind. I'm just transferring what is already here to other people, because I ran screaming all over the world trying to find out what to do about anything. I couldn't figure out nothing. So when you're completely bankrupt in your head, you reach out. So I just reached out for the logic of the universe, because nobody was giving me answers to anything that made sense.
You know, I think someone else that was.
That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Neely Fuller, don't follow him because that's a mistake, and then you'll get mad about the mistake that you made. Don't follow any people anywhere. Follow the logic. Listen to what people say, and then test it to see if it works. If it works, stick with it. If it doesn't, don't condemn the people that gave you that advice. Just say that I tried it and it didn't work. All that means is you try something else, because evidently they had faith that it would work, or they were trying to mislead you. But either way, you tap into logic. Logic will always take you where you need to go. And how do you use logic? I want to say this. This is very important. Logic is nothing but questions and answers, something that black people don't do very well. We like to make a lot of statements, in particular when you're interacting with white people. And I say this right to white people who are listening, because I want this to work. If you're a person of color and you're talking to a white person, stay away from making statements, and definitely don't make any accusations, because all that's going to do is make white people mad, and then what you got is just transferring a whole lot of anger in a circle. You don't want a circle. We have been in a circle too long. It's running around and coming right back where we started from. We want to break out. Like, what's that song that one of the local people used to sing? I feel like busting loose.
Chuck Brown. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Right.
Yeah, and that rang a bell instantly when people first heard that song.
Yeah.
and talking about entertainment now, all right?
Yeah.
See, but what did that mean? That resonated with a whole lot of people the first time they heard that sentence on a song. I feel like busting loose. Mm-hmm. Lots of black people feel that way.
Yeah.
Busting loose from what? From this grip that racism has on you when you come right down to it.
You know,
in every move that you make. But we get frustrated and start shooting each other. That's what the busting loose came. Now I'm going to bust loose. How am I going to bust loose? I'm going to bust a cap in somebody that looks like me.
Yeah. And someone that took another tack of not busting a cap from a gun, but tried to explain to this world the things that you are talking about, I think is very beloved. And we saw her be this particular person who if people don't know, that you obviously had some rapport with, and she certainly gave you credit for sharing with her morsels of information that she attempted to put into a form that I think would help to try to do what you're talking about doing, is to take white supremacy, obliterate it, and replace it with justice. And you saw a vicious continuation of an attempt to assassinate her mentally, to do a character assassination, that she was crazy. And I talk about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. I know my audience is appreciative of what she tried to do, and I would just ask you if you might speak on her and her effort as you knew her.
Well, you have already adequately described her. She was trying to do, and what I'm trying to do. She said that she's trying to get people to understand racism. And she said that her emphasis, when I talked to her many, many decades ago, and we used to talk all the time, every day, really, and she said she's going to work on why white people acted the way that they do. That was going to be her focus. And I said that I'm going to work on what to do about it. And that's been my focus ever since. Now, when you start talking about melanin and all like that, like Dr. Wilson talks about, and the origin of white people, and et cetera, I don't know anything about that. And I know what I've heard from different sources, but I don't know anything about that, because I have concentrated, and I want to make this clear to my audience, to the audience right now, whoever's listening. I'm just concentrating on what the individual person, and that's something different from the organizational person, what the individual person can do on a daily basis to help solve the race problem. And the main thing I want to emphasize on, at least this morning, is the solution is going to be somewhere in questions and answers. That's going to be the procedure. And how to use words as an individual person when you're interacting with non-white people or white people. And I always say, like Dr. Wilson said, evidently, from what people are telling me, it bothers her the way people react. Now, that's a part of what I call the code. Someone called me an MF on my podcast the other day, and the host that was assisting me took offense to it. I didn't take offense to it. I say, okay, well, evidently there must be some disagreement. That's my position. See, in other words, I stay focused. That's a part of the code. Stay focused on your mission. Somebody made a whole TV series called, Eyes on the Prize?
Yeah.
Yeah, get the job done. Salazzo was correct in The Godfather. It ain't personal. It's not personal, Tom. It's business. It's good business. I mean, he's killing the, you know, I really like the Don. You know, personally, I like him. You know, I mean, we could have beer together and all like that, but I got to kill him. Why? It's good for business. That's the mentality of the white supremacists. We got to understand that. That's why they can laugh and joke and march with black people, but they say, yeah, but, you know, you're still a darky. I mean, you know, and I can't help that. You have to check with God about that, you know. I can't help that. You know, I'm going to mistreat you. I mean, until you change my mind. I mean, that's the way it is. Why? It's good for business. What business? White business. I don't know if any other way to function and have all these wonderful things that you yourself, Dorothy, enjoy. I got to mistreat you in order to have all the things that have the time and the energy and the will to make all these wonderful toys that you like to play with. It ain't personal, it's business. You like to play with them. You like the things that I invent. But I have to mistreat you. So I have said to white people, and I'm going to say it this morning before this program is over. There's another way, and that way is justice. You don't have to practice racism. You don't have to mistreat anybody in order to produce things. So you put things before people. And that is the virus that I tell the whole white world. That's where the virus is. You claim that we got to do things, get things done. In order to do it, you got to mistreat people of color. You don't. That's not logical. You can do justice and get the same result. But the white world seems to be saying, yeah, but justice takes too long. It takes too long. You have to talk to people too long and all like that. It's better than mistreating people. Take the time. Take the time and explain to people what you're doing and the best way to go about getting the best results. So this program, really, I mean, I've done a lot of gabbing and bounced all over the place and doing it. Right now, this program is about 2 words that I want everybody on the planet or in outer space to say what this program, where I'm talking to Mr. Newman about, is about 2 words: constructive results. So that person that Mr. Newman was talking about earlier, the person who says you've got to go and wrestle with those white people, he can go in there with those 2 words. Now, fellas, I've been thinking all night, all this morning until I came in, well, I'm thinking about it right now, that everything that we do and say this day that has been given to all of us, and every other day forward, is going to be about 2 words: constructive results. And if you want to add a word that a lot of people don't like, but we'll add it in this particular instance. You have heard of CRT, and that is, what's that? What is
critical race theory?
Critical race theory. How about CRT? You can have a lot of CRTs. What about constructive results truth? CRT. You still got CRT, but it's something that you probably can relate to. He can tell everybody on his staff, everybody he works with, including the white people and black people, in case everybody forgets what my position is in this institution where we all work. And he can say that today if he's listening, right where he's on the job. I mean, he can say, CRT. Everybody on board with that? And naturally, a lot of white people are going to say, well, I got questions about that, you know, or I object to that, or you even bringing it in here. But he'll say, oh, I'm not talking about critical race theory. I'm talking about constructive results truth.
So
Tell the truth first about everything and get constructive results. And constructive results come from what? Questions and answers.
So
just keep asking.
Mr. Fuller, I know that during the midst of this conversation, you have shared universal laws that can have the potential for undoing and slaughtering white supremacy.
That's what I'm trying to do.
As we
and I do it unashamedly.
As we end this program here, I would once again like to give you the floor. And it doesn't matter if you reiterate or talk more about the methods or the ways, the modalities, how this monster of white supremacy can be overcome.
Yes, through codification. That's what I want to make clear, which I did a kind of sloppy job this morning. But I want to make clear that anything that people put together, because a lot of people say there's no way to get rid of racism. And there's an old cliche, racism can be discussed, but only discussed, or something like that. But it cannot be solved. There's no way to solve it. But the race problem can be solved. Why? It was put together by people. Anything that people put together, and that's been proven by the laws of the universe, anything that people put together can be taken apart by people. Now, all of the evidence shows that. So racism was put together by people. So it can be taken apart by people. And it can be taken apart, like most things, faster than it was put together. So I'm saying, where's the keys to doing this? The key is to have a code, which is what black people don't have. We just go about doing anything any kind of old way. A code is something where you do everything with precision. Every word that you utter is designed to produce what? A constructive result. Otherwise, you don't use that word, just one word. We don't pay enough attention to words. We just throw them up in the air and hope that they hit somebody's ear and everything works out. Black people have more slogans than anybody in recorded history. I mean, we do. I mean, hold our elected leaders accountable. That's a slogan. Look at it.
Yeah.
Hold our elected leaders accountable. That's what we got to do. I've been hearing that forever. And what's another standard? I mean, this is the biggest one.
Yeah,
we got to come together.
Yeah,
it's 2 words.
Yeah.
But that can take up, we will repeat that 1,500 times, and it's 1 million people out there listening for a codified procedure for what? Getting things done. And we always say, after everybody takes the mic and get introduced all around and give their credentials, they always say, now what I've discovered, it took me a long time to come to this conclusion, and what I discovered, and I'm not mocking us, I'm just photographing.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
What I discovered is that, and I've come here to tell this crowd out here, and it's a huge crowd, it's at least 2,000 people in this stadium, and what I've discovered over the years is that black people, and listen to this, brothers and sisters, we got to come together. And everybody claps. And spilling popcorn all over the place and whatnot. Because they're clapping and stomping our feet. And then they say, now that's all I got to say. And then they hand the mic to somebody else. And after talking for an hour, that's what they'll say. Well, what's the solution, Reverend or Professor Neely Fuller? What's the solution? Well, we got to come together. We're already together. What's the solution? What's the solution? Well, we come together and we'll work on that. We'll all be in Vegas next year. because we're having a meeting there. What are we going to do when we get there? We're going to come together. Don't you understand? Black people need to get together. That's what we need to do. We need to get together. Say it with emphasis. Is that a plan? The answer is no. A plan is a code. It's something that you do that produces a result, and every time you do it, it produces that result. And you don't open your mouth about nothing without a plan. You just listen, because you'll learn how to make a plan. Look and listen to everything that's going on. It'll come to you.
Mr.
And
Fuller,
ask questions.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, we have come to the end of our time here today. I am on bended knee. I would ask you to try to return when you could. I wouldn't be telling. I don't think I'm telling a secret when I say that you are 93 years old, and my heartfelt wish, my dear brother, is that you live another 93 years, because as Dick Gregory used to say, yeah, we got a big job. Mr. Fuller, thank you so very much for joining us today, and I will be in touch in the not-too-distant future.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate it, and I really mean that. That's not just saying something because the code says, you just don't say something just to be saying it. And I appreciate this because it helps me to do what I consider to be my assignment. Thank you very much, sir. And thanks to all the listeners.
All right. Folks, God bless you. I don't have anything else to say. Let's ruminate on what Neely Fuller just shared with us. And
ProduceJustice.com.
ProduceJustice.com. You want to see more about what he has done, more about what he has to say, go to ProduceJustice.com. This is Rock Newman signing off of the Rock Newman Show 2.0. I look forward to seeing you the next time. God bless.
Thank you, sir.